Today's recipe calls for red pepper flakes. We're going to be making rigatoni alla vodka. So if you're one of them carb haters, then get to stepping. You're going to be really missing out on this recipe. It's simple and it's delicious. So with that said, let's get into this. The first thing we're going to do is cut the tip off of our shallot. Shallots usually come in 2 pairs. If not, you can buy a single one. It's not a big deal. This is about a medium-sized shallot. Next, you're going to run your knife, the tip of your knife, width-wise down the shallot. You want to make sure you're not cutting all the way through it on the end where the hairs are. This will help keep it together when we go to cut it crosswise like so. And you're just cutting it into small dices. So run all the way through the shallot till you get to the end. And shallots are basically the fancy version of an onion. If you can't find a shallot, you can also use a white onion. It's basically the same thing. Then we'll finish it off and cut the rest of our shallot into a small dice. And yes, these potentially have the capability of making you cry like an onion would. Now that we got our shallot diced, we're going to smash 6 to 7 garlic cloves. Don't worry about smashing them too hard. We're going to mince them in the next step. You want to smash them enough, making it easier to peel. Now that you have them all smashed, go ahead and peel them. You can use less garlic if you choose. I love garlic, and garlic is so delicious with pasta. And garlic is healthy for you. It's good for your heart. And you want to ensure that you peel them really well. When you go to mince them, and if they're not peeled very well, it's going to be a lot harder to pull that skin out when all of your garlic is minced. Now that all of our garlic has been cleaned up, we're going to cut the end off where the root of the garlic grows. It's not edible, and you don't want it in your pasta. Now that the root has been cut off all of our garlic cloves, we're going to thinly slice them. You want to slice them as thin as you possibly can. This will help in the next step when we go to mince the garlic. And when you're cutting it like so, you want to use the claw like you would with any other vegetable. This will ensure you won't nick one of those digits. If you're not comfortable doing this, it's not a must. Like I said, it just makes it easier in the next step is all. Now that all of your garlic has been sliced, we're going to mince it one way and then mince it the opposite way. How you're going to mince it is use one hand on your handle, then put the other hand on the tip of your blade and just rock the knife back and forth. Let the knife do all the work. Your knife should be sharp, so you shouldn't have to apply too much pressure. Just rock it back and forth until it's nice and small pieces of garlic. Now that you have all your veggies cut, we're going to bring a large pot of water to a boil. This is going to be your pasta water. Don't be afraid to salt it. You want it salty like the sea. This is the only time that your pasta will be seasoned, so don't be afraid of adding too much salt. Then we're going to turn it on high and let it rip. Now that you got your pasta water going, over medium heat, you're going to heat up 2 tablespoons of cooking oil in a medium-sized saucepan. This pot will be used to make our pasta sauce. Now that your oil's hot, go ahead and throw in your shallot. And as always, scrape out your holding apparatus to ensure you get all those goodies out. Then give everything a nice stir to coat it in your cooking oil. This will help ensure that everything gets a nice even cook on it. Then hit it with a small pinch of salt. Once you've hit it with salt, give it a nice stir to ensure everything gets coated in salt. We're going to cook our shallot until it's nice and translucent before we add the garlic. Should take 2 to 3 minutes. You don't want any caramelization on your shallot. If you do get some, it's not that big of a deal. That's just not what we're going for on this recipe. Now that your shallot's nice and translucent, go ahead and add your minced garlic cloves. And of course, like before, scrape that holding apparatus to get all that sweet garlic. We're going to cook our garlic until it becomes nice and fragrant and delicious smelling. Should take about a minute or 2. Now that your garlic has become nice and fragrant, we're going to add half a cup of tomato paste to our pan. The best way to get all of your paste out of your measuring cup is to use a rubber spatula. Keep your rubber spatula handy because the tomato paste will like to stick to your spoon. We're going to cook our tomato paste for 5 minutes. This will help caramelize all the natural sugars that are in our tomato paste, giving us a deeper, richer flavor in our sauce. You have to stir it occasionally. You don't have to watch it like a hawk. Just give it a stir every now and then. And if you can't tell, this is a non-stick pan If you're using a non-stick pan ever in your kitchen, make sure that you're using a wooden spoon or a spatula to stir things together. You never want to go metal on metal. That'll scratch the non-stick off, and that'll be in your food, and you definitely don't want to be eating that. Then flatten out your tomato paste so it has more coverage in the pan, making it easier and faster to caramelize. You know that all of your tomato paste has been caramelized when it becomes a deep red, almost like a brick in color. Like I said before, give it the occasional stir, and if you can tell it's still a bright red color, then we'll flatten it out like before and keep caramelizing our tomato paste. Then we'll give our tomato paste one last stir and check it, and you can tell our tomato paste is a lot darker than what we started with. That's what you're going for, is that dark, deep, rich color. After that, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. We're going to toast our red pepper flakes for about a minute. This will help release some natural oils out of the red pepper flakes. This will make the sauce a bit spicier, so if you don't want it as spicy, skip the toasting part. I think that's where a lot of recipes fall short, is they don't toast it. I think it makes it more delicious. Next, we'll add 2 tablespoons of local vodka. I have multiple videos on using local vodka. I'll leave a link in the description for both of those videos. And we're going to cook our vodka for 2 minutes. This will ensure that we cook all of our alcohol out of our pasta sauce. So if you're worried about your sauce being too boozy, it'll all cook out at this point. Now that all the alcohol has been cooked off, we're going to add 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. You're going to stir while you pour in your heavy whipping cream. This will ensure that your cream doesn't break. And you want to stir constantly to emulsify the cream and tomato paste together to make a nice smooth sauce. If you want, you can transition to using a whisk. I just kept with a wooden spoon so I didn't have to dirty another utensil. At the beginning, your sauce will seem chunky, but you're going to keep stirring until everything comes together into a nice smooth sauce. The consistent stirring will break down the tomato paste, making it cream into your heavy whipping cream. So keep going until everything has dissolved and become smooth. Now that your sauce has come together, give it a taste test and adjust the seasoning as needed. I added a little pinch of salt and some fresh ground pepper. Don't go too heavy on the pepper because your red pepper flakes are already spicy enough. Then give that a stir to ensure everything's well nice and mixed together. Now that our pasta water is boiling, we're going to go ahead and add our pasta to the pot. You always want to ensure that you give your pasta a stir right after you add it. The water rehydrates the pasta, and if you don't give it a stir, you're going to end up with one giant unipasta. Next, we're going to prep our cheese. The first thing we're going to do is cut the rind off of our Parmesan Reggiano. You can tell the difference from the rind and the cheese. The rind is more of a deep golden color compared to the white of the Parmesan, and the Parmesan rind is going to be a lot harder than the cheese. So with a sharp knife, you're going to cut along the rind and the cheese. You want to ensure that your knife is sharp because it is a hard cheese, so you're going to have to apply a lot of force to cut through it. Go ahead and save the rind from your Parmesan Reggiano. We'll use it in another recipe. You can skip this step and use a pre-grated Parmesan. Now that our pasta is cooked to a nice al dente, we'll grab a strainer and throw our pasta into our sauce. You want to shake off some of that water. Don't worry about shaking it all off. The water from the pasta will help thin out the sauce if it's too thick. So transfer it all over into your pot. And you can reserve a cup of the pasta water just in case if your sauce gets way too thick. The water will help thin it out, and it will also help thicken it up if you keep cooking it because there's gluten in that water. And when you go to drain your pasta, ensure that you do not ever rinse it with cold water. That'll just rinse off all the gluten, which will prevent any of the sauce sticking to your pasta. Now that we got all of our pasta into our pan, we'll give it a nice stir and stir all of our pasta with our pasta sauce. And you can tell that our sauce is nice and creamy and thick, just the right consistency because it's sticking to the pasta and everything is getting nice and coated. Man, this looks delicious. This is what dreams are made of. I'm so glad I'm not one of those carb haters. And then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. I forgot to add this when we first made our sauce. If you forget to do it like I did, it's not a big deal. It'll melt in once we go to stir everything together again. Then we're going to shred in a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. Now that you've got all the cheese that your heart can desire into your pot, give everything a nice stir until all of your butter and cheese has emulsified with your pasta sauce. Now that you have everything nice and well mixed together, grab your favorite pasta dish and start plating up your pasta. I try to plate it right in the middle for that nice, sweet, aesthetic look, or you can just shovel it in there. It's really up to you. For garnish, we'll hit it with some shredded parmesan. You can shred as much as your little parmesan heart desires. We'll finish our garnish with some fresh basil. You can cut your basil, but I went with torn basil just because I wanted to show off how strong I am. Alright, let's give our pasta a try. I'm super excited for this one. I love pasta, so let's give it a shot. It's delicious. The sauce is nice and creamy, has a little bit of spiciness to it. Then you got that basil that rounds it out with that freshness. And then the parmesan is nutty and a little bit of salty. And then the noodles are perfect, nice and al dente. It's just banging. Alright, if you love pasta, you're definitely going to love this recipe. This is by far one of my favorite videos I've made for this channel. It's so good. I can't wait to eat the rest of this pasta later on. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. It really helps me out. And if you want to see some other food related content, go find me on Instagram at TaylorMakes92. I post some goodies on there as well. Now I gotta go find the biggest fork possible so I can shovel more of this pasta into my face hole. Face hole? That sounds attractive. Anyways, we'll see you on the next one. Making. That's a nice freshness to it. Come on now. Spice to it. It's really good. Rolling on. Alright, that's it for this video. Nope. Far one of my favorite recipes so far that I've made on this channel. And if you agree, give this video a like. Found it. Now this is a pasta fork. Yeah.